Get the duck boats ready, Connor. Get the duck boats ready. This is how it starts.
What I've been telling you.
Stanley Cup is on. You're right, Connor. Connor, you had a point. I'm a hater. You're a motivator. This is Poke the Bear, live Poke the Bear. We can see your comments. We can interact with you as we sit here after the Bruins won 3-1. Jack, damn right, Jack. What the hell is going on? What the hell was that? That's Connor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Poke the Bear is always presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And make sure if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to Bruins Ringside, go do that. It's on YouTube. You're watching it through this. And if you're just listening, go subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And there's lots of other great stuff at CLNS too. Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access. There is Bruins Ringside. That is the page on YouTube. All the podcasts. It's incredible stuff. Make sure to go subscribe. We have stuff all the time, live streams like this throughout the season. Okay. 3-1 win. They're 1-0. It was boring. It was not flashy, but they pulled it out. What's your initial take? What's your initial gut tell you?
It was boring, not flashy, Evan. And I think that's exactly how the 25-26 Bruins want to play their games. And it is one game, so I don't think we're making any sweeping declarations off of this one. But I think if you look at what Marco Sturm is looking to get out of this team, and I think kind of what we've hopped on before of like what the template is of what this team can be if they play to their strengths. I think you kind of saw what it was tonight. Like, yeah, would you feel better if Victor Arvidsson buried that breakaway and you got some more secondary scoring? Yeah, of course. But if the Bruins are going to exceed expectations and be, at the very least, more of a competitive team than a lot of people were expecting, I think you saw a lot of people were getting ready to look at the Gavin McKenna highlights after that was a 0-0 game after 20 minutes. But
6-4 were the shots.
Exactly. Like, I think that's kind of the strategy of how they want to operate out there. And what's it going to involve? It's going to involve probably a lot of low event hockey, a lot of them grinding things out here, limiting the other team, trapping them in the neutral zone. Doesn't make it the most riveting product, but if it prevents you from getting run out of the building like it was last year, I think you opt for that kind of strategy. And then it's kind of just relying on your strengths. You're banking on Jeremy Swayman bouncing back, not expecting him to stop 35 of 36 shots night in and night out, right? But him, I think, just being a lot sharper in net is going to help out this team tremendously, as is the return, obviously, of Charlie McAvoy, who had 7 hits tonight. Hampus Lindholm was out there, almost scored against Jeremy Swayman, but we'll overlook that. It's good having Hampus Lindholm back out there.
That was a warm-up. That didn't count, you know?
And then I think offensively, right, is it the most sustainable way to get offense? Probably not, but when you have David Pastrnak out there as a offensive cheat code, if all these other things are working in your favor, right, if the defense is tightening up and they're playing low event hockey, if Jeremy Swayman is regaining his form, and you got David Pastrnak that's going to be bailing you out, you're going to be a lot more competitive than I think a lot of people expect. And I think especially when you look at how the Bruins can kind of, increase the margins more in their favor when they were just so much went wrong last year. If Pastrnak cooks, if the special teams play improves, again, they went 1 for 2 on the power play, 5 for 5 on the PK. Ideally, you stop going to the penalty box as much because that's going to bite you in the ass eventually. But I do think when you look at just the way the Bruins won this game, it's kind of the strategy or the script they got to stick to. And if they do that, they're probably going to win quite a few more games than a lot of people were expecting.
They're big and slow. They chased play the entire night. You said the thing about penalties, like that was big and slow. That's them. But you know what, Connor? They were disciplined as hell when it came to defending the front of their net and defending in their own zone. They let the Capitals keep things mostly to the perimeter. When things went middle, they grabbed guys. Like they played good defense. That was a Marco Sturm coach team. They were stingy in their own zone. And you're right. I mean, again, your best guys were your best guys. And I think when you look at a team like this that had such low expectations, to come out in game 1 on the road in prime time, Pastrnak, 3 points. McAvoy, bunch of hits, phenomenal defense. Jeremy Swayman, 35 of 36. Like, just outstanding game in net. This isn't going to be every night. It can't be every night. That would be impossible. But I think for a tone setting type thing, for those three guys who are your three most important players, like you will go as far as those three take you, for them to all be at their best in this game, I think is at the very least encouraging. And I know it's boring. And someone said it wasn't boring to me. I'd rather this than last year. Keith, you're 100% right.
Yes, like they were uncompetitive last year. I'd rather watch that where the Bruins are staying off the mat, right? They're staying off the ropes. They're in the fight than them getting run out of the building by Carolina and every other good team that had some semblance of an identity. Like last year was a complete shit show in that regard. So you'll take the structure if it means that even if this team is flawed, they're imperfect, you still got to wait and see who else is going to step up and add that supplementary scoring. You're at least in the mix, right? And if that's what you got to do this year with the personnel you have, feels like the proper course of action for Marco Sturm and his staff, and it was a good start today.
Yeah, it was. And we'll get into sort of sustainability and if this could, does this change any expectations? But let's go guy by guy. Let's go Pastrnak, Swayman, McAvoy. We'll start with Pastrnak. 3 points. The goal, I think, was an embodiment of what they are going to be this year, which is just throw the puck on the net. Just chuck it on net. And then that power play assist, man. Like, that was
Sick.
special. And the whole play, like, that was... I have not seen that out of them in a long time. Just the McAvoy drop to Zacha, the quick up to Pastrnak, and then the great pass middle to Lindholm. McAvoy drove the far post, taking that defender. I mean, that was like, I was stunned that they were able to pull that out, and they did. And it really was, that pass by Pastrnak was just incredible. I saw like he's on pace for like 248 points, three times 82. But again, he was outstanding tonight. No question.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, you're going to have to rely on him to be that offensive conduit pretty much every single night. And again, that's a lot to ask. That's not ideal for one player to shoulder that scoring burden. But you look at how miserable the Bruins were last year. For him to have 43 goals and 106 points on a team like that shows you just what he can do. And again, I look at like what this team could be if they exceed expectations. And let's say like all of a sudden they're hovering on a wild card spot, or they're in a wild card spot in March, right? And we're on a podcast and we're probably going to be like, this is great, man. Like, this team's a lot better than we thought, but like, it's not really sustainable, right? Like, this is going to come back and bite them. That's probably true. But for right now, like, you will take an offensive juggernaut like David Pastrnak playing to this kind of level. I mean, and it's not just that, you're relying on him to be the guy that's leading the way. He's also bringing guys along with him, right? Morgan Geekie gets involved. I thought he had a pretty good game. And then like what we said with Elias Lindholm, where you're having other guys kind of step up, like he had a 2-point night. And as you're trying just to find other ways or other guys to pull on the rope beyond the usual suspects, it's a good sign that, those guys are your most impactful players after how great they were to end last year. Like, as much as we all were expecting David Pastrnak to be probably another 100-point player this year, you still had some of that uncertainty. You still had some of that uncertainty over what to expect with like Morgan Geekie, right? Like, there is that fear of like, was that a 1-year outlier? Is Elias Lindholm what he saw at the end of last year, where he had 15 points in 17 games? Is that going to carry over, or was he more of the player we saw in the first, 2/3 of the year where you're like, holy crap, this contract's going to be terrible? So I think Pastrnak leading the way there, generating a lot of offense on his own, but also bringing those guys along. It's good to see, because it's going to be an uneven scoring balance this year. But if Geekie and Lindholm are locked in alongside Pastrnak, it's a pretty damn good line that's going to generate offense at 5-on-5 and on the power play, as you saw.
I had a thought that was coming to me as you were talking about Pastrnak and kind of bringing guys along.
and Hagen's dropping out.
December. That's right. Hagen's is like, I'm done.
He's going to get like,
I got to join this.
They're going to assign a homework over. He's going to see what the finals are right before the holiday break. He's like, nah, I'm not doing this.
He's in Chris Cotillo's sports media class. He's like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, he's playing home run derby, playing softball. Like, not me, buddy.
With the fake wiffle balls. Yeah, he's like, I can't. I'm going to the Bruins. Low expectations this year. I mean, I don't have them making the playoffs. You have them as a wild card. I don't see any model or prediction having them over a wild card spot. Like, that's like the highest that they are predicted at. Yes. And watching Pastrnak tonight, again, he's not going to have 3 points every night, but given the low expectation, or maybe 2, given the low expectations that they have this season, there's a real chance guys are going to take home, guys are going to be in the running for individual awards come the end of the year, right? If Pastrnak, if they fulfill what you're saying, which is like they compete for a wild card spot and maybe even get there, Pasternak's going to have over 100 points. He's definitely in the, like, legitimately in the MVP conversation. Swayman's likely very much in the Vezina conversation. McAvoy's very much in the Norris conversation. Sturm's in the Jack Adams conversation. My point is, if it goes according to what your prediction shows, or what your prediction was, which is wild card, and they play like this at least consistently, not every night, but consistently, they're not going to go far in the playoffs. But like individual awards wise, yeah, maybe.
I mean, wouldn't it be kind of similar to it is very funny that, like, you know, the start of this episode, I'm like, let's not get carried away with one game, but now I'm going to be like, well, if he leads them to the playoffs, isn't that going to be like Taylor Hall that year with the Devils where he wins the Hart, where it's like that team, like he just drags that crew along. But would not surprise me if he's at the very least in the mix. Again, I thought he should have gotten, he was never going to win, but like him dragging that corpse of a team last year to get 43 goals and 106 points was nuts, considering that it wasn't like he was a power play merchant either. He had 9 power play goals the entire year. So we know what he can do. And again, even if this team still has evident flaws with their scoring and their scoring depth, especially, he's going to put up his points and he's going to lead the way. And so, yeah, I would not be surprised if he keeps up not 3 points a night, but some level of production of being on pace for 100 points. And the Bruins are exceeding expectations, where you get into the second half of the year and people are like, we thought this team was going to be dead and buried. All of a sudden, this is a productive bridge year where all of a sudden you're staying in the mix, and all of a sudden you got Hagen and all these draft picks coming along right after it. It kind of changes, one, the complexion of how, you know, maybe national media views the Bruins, but also it puts a spotlight back on David Pastrnak. Everyone knows he can score, but doing it on this team, if they are exceeding expectations, let's stop the narrative right now, Evan. 1 game in. I'm already seeing it on Twitter, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, like if the Bruins are at the halfway point of the year, you know, they're in January, and, you know, he's 5th in points, but they're like in the wild card competing for, you know, the 3rd spot, but in the wild card, they're in and out of it. There are people you'll see like Dom at the Athletic and a bunch of people writing like he should be the Hart Trophy winner, or like one of him, Swayman, or McAvoy should be like the front runner for their award, Vezina, Norris, or MVP. Like I think that is what you're going to see if they continue like this. If this continues, I'm just going off of tonight, like one game, but it's just going off that. And I think it's a funny thing. Like all 3 guys were at their best tonight. Your best guys were your best guys. We'll get to Swayman in a sec. McAvoy, I thought, was phenomenal. Physical, tough minutes. Played with both Lowry and Lindholm for stretches of time. Power play, nice drop pass to Zacha. Gets kind of forgotten in the Pastrnak and Swayman thing because those 2 were so important. But I think McAvoy and the defense as a whole playing as well as they did tonight was just really encouraging. And I think it's absolutely huge going forward if they're going to want to contend.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to like the standard that needs to be kept in night in, night out. Like, yeah, you're not expecting David Pastrnak to be a 3-point guy every night. You can expect like the defense to keep its structure, for guys to, you know, really clog up the neutral zone, like playing like that's like more systems and like just knowing what to do with Marco Sturm as the coach, as opposed to like expecting just David Pastrnak to, as a one-man show, lead you to a playoff spot. Like, and I think even it's not even just like the defense, right? Like I thought the forwards were trapping well. Even like the second line, like Arvidsson had a few plays where he's just using his feet and was forcing turnovers. Murat Huseninov was skating his ass off tonight. Like, I thought he looked good. The 4th line, actually, that's what I think even mentioned last week. We're like, well, we like the first line, and we don't know what to make a second and third line, but we really like the guys on the 4th line. And I think, again, what Marco Sturm has kind of mentioned, you know, as like the priorities for this team out of the gate is, 1, being patient, but also preaching like stuff they can control. And what can they control? What are like the non-negotiables that aren't influenced by puck luck, or anything like that. It's effort and structure. And I think like if you can keep on hopping on those things and make sure that doesn't wane or vary significantly night in, night out, that kind of one keeps the standard up of how you want to play, but also it limits the variance of like one night you feeling good about where your team is, and then the next night you get run out of the building 6-1, right? Like, which was the case last year where the Bruins would win a game or two, and you're like, all right, like they're figuring things out, and then you let go of the rope and you're back at square one. How many times do we have a podcast where it feels like they'd win like a game or two over the weekend, and then we'd record on Tuesday, being like, well, that sucks. Like, well, what do we make of this team? And so I do think when you look at what they have to do, it's all about keeping that defensive structure, keeping that level of effort up from guys further down the lineup. And I think you see like how much it is just a lift having a McAvoy and a Lindholm anchoring that decor, and how much the domino effect, not just their own play, but how I think it better serves other guys to put them in better spots to succeed, where like Zadorov's on the third pair and can kind of play his game as opposed to playing elevated minutes. Like the domino effect of them just being out there is huge for this team.
It is. And you saw that time and time again. And even a guy like Lindholm elevates Andrew Peak, which is huge. And I it's funny, like you mentioned Hustendinov and the depth guys. And I mean, I'm not expecting much scoring out of anything outside of your first line, at least to start the season. But they were fairly reliable. Middlestat had a couple turnovers in mid ice that I really didn't like. Little too lax with the puck. He had a nice back check early in the first period, which prevented a scoring chance. I thought that was good. But I think for your third and fourth line, if they continue to play stingy defense, limit teams, protect the middle, like that is sustainable. It's not exciting. It's boring. You're going to get heavily outplayed. You got heavily outplayed tonight. You chase the game the entire time, which we'll get into in a bit. But, like, you can win that way. Like, I remember this back in high school when we would play the way better teams. We would just pack it in defensively, chip pucks off the glass, and hope to get a goal or two off the rush, which was exactly what the Bruins were for the first, period and a half of that game. Like, they had a 3-on-1 at one point that they muffed, but that was after a long D-zone sequence that they, then they get the three guys going the other way. So, like, that's going to be them. And it's not a huge surprise either. I think what's the pleasant surprise is that you got really good games out of McAvoy, Pastrnak, and that top line. The D as a whole, really. And Swayman. I want to get to Swayman in a second. But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. And of course, David Pastrnak is the guy to go to. Tomorrow night against the Blackhawks, I like David Pastrnak. I'll just put it at that. I like David Pastrnak. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in. And Prize Picks, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out. If your lineup isn't perfect, you can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. It's good to be right. I will say, I don't have the Bruins making the playoffs, but the rest of my predictions look pretty good after Wednesday night's game. I'll give myself that.
I'm glad you didn't have Jack Eichel signing with the Bruins this offseason.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. I was worried Natchez would sign today.
And that was what I was expecting next. And I was like, well, that would hurt both of our predictions, I think. So
that'll be tomorrow. Swayman was the biggest X factor with this team. He still is the biggest X factor with this team. If you get competent, good goaltending, how many times we say it last year, if they got good, competent goaltending, they would have been in the run for the playoffs. They would have at least contended in and around the wild card spot. 35 to 36 tonight. I think you have the stat in front of you. Expected goals was
3.29 goals saved above average. Yeah, above expected. Yeah.
He was outstanding. Obviously D was good in front of him, but they had some moments, some mad scrambles in front. I don't have the natural stat trick in front of me, so I don't know what the high danger chances were, but I
believe he was 8. I think he was 8 of 9 on high danger shots.
Yeah. So. And the Wilson one was a bounce to the front of the net that got through a couple of guys. And you just put your hands up at that point, but he was outstanding. And again, starting out the way he did for this season, which is a massive season for him. I know the expectations are low for this team, but for him, you need him to be worth that money. And tonight, he was certainly worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all goes back to like just how much a quick stat could do for this team as far as, there's so many question marks about this group that, even Marco Sturm has mentioned like the final days of training camp of like you're still waiting to see what you have in some of these players. Like it's still, I think, a work in progress to figuring out how best to maximize the ceiling of this group. So how much more does it make you feel better though that like, all right, you look at the middle six here, right? And you saw some promising shifts, but you're still going to be working your way through it. But hey, if our top guys in Jeremy Swayman and Pastrnak and McAvoy and Lindholm, both Lindholms are playing like that, they can keep us afloat. They're going to keep us in these games. We can pile on points and we figure things out as they come along, right? And I think that's how the Bruins have to approach this right now. It's going to be an ongoing process to see if that second line can click. And again, like I even thought that like Victor Arvidsson didn't have like the best preseason. I wasn't all that enthused by his game, but I thought he was a lot more active tonight. And I think you're just seeing like you need to have more patience for some of these players, see how they can hold things out there on the ice. But if you have Jeremy Swayman playing like that, that absolves a lot of the expected growing pains, or at least keeps you in the fight most nights, as it's going to be kind of an imperfect product out there. And you didn't see a whole lot of that last year. I think Bruce Cassidy was the one who coined the phrase timely saves. And I felt like last year, even when the Bruins were on the ropes just trying to survive, you just had that one or two backbreakers that would take momentum away from your team. You chasing the play, all that stuff, and it would kind of snowball from there. And, you look at how many times in this one where the Bruins kept on going back to the penalty box. You have the 55-second 5-on-3 where feels like if that was last year, they'd get 2 goals out of it, right?
Easy.
Like Ovechkin bomb, and then someone cleans up the net front with like 14 seconds left on the other penalty, and then you're chasing the game. And again, if this Bruins team gets down early, that's when you're like, oh, yikes. Like, I don't know if you can chase games all that well with this personnel, at least right now. But you don't have to worry about that this game because Jeremy Swayman bailed you out, and you have to rely on him to do that most nights. But I think you saw a guy that, whether it be how he played at World, whether how he handled the preseason where he was really sharp, where, the clean slate of just having a new season, going past last year, having an actual training camp, you're kind of hoping and banking on all those things working in Jeremy Swayman's favor to at least getting back to a league average goalie, if not better. Like, I think there's a lot more faith in him being that kind of player than an 892 save percentage guy he was last year. I made like the analogy to like Ty. It's like what he was the last few years. It's like if you're banking on a 290 career hitter over his first 5 years, 1 year hits like 176, and you're like, all right, we got Adam Dunn out there. He's going to be hitting 205 the rest of his career. He's the new Willie Mo Pena. No, like
I was going to say Willie Mo.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I envision, maybe he's not going to be hitting 290 again, but can he hit 260 and kind of get back to what he was? Different sport, but like I think it's all about setting the body work he had his first 4 years. I think you're closer to that with this type of player than an 892 in what was, again, from Swayman on down, was a year from hell for a lot of guys.
Completely. I think you even look at tonight's game and like if he's playing the way he did last year, even the way the stats said he, 3.29 goals save above expected. Let's say he lets 3 more goals in. That's a 4-3 loss. We're sitting here going, all right, you got a 3.9 out of Pastrnak. You got your first line producing. You got a power play goal. You got no depth scoring though. And that's what, and Swayman, was league average and you lost. And that's going to be you the whole season. And it wasn't because Swayman was so good. Like that was the ultimate X factor in this game was Swayman was so good. Now, are you going to get Swayman being that good and the first line cooking and the defense being as good as they were tonight every night? No. But it's encouraging. It's at the very least encouraging that all 3 of those things looked as good as they did on Wednesday night. And we'll get into this now. Do you feel differently about this team going forward after seeing what they did on Wednesday night?
No, not really.
Change anything for you?
No. I mean, again, that's kind of, I think I probably had more of an optimistic outlook, and I'm not going to be gloating over one game or anything like that. Like,
82-0.
Yeah. I'm not doing that. I'm not taking victory laps off of this, but I just think it shines light. It illuminates on like just how this team, if they are better than a lot of people expected, how they have to do it. And when you look at, again, to your point, it's not going to be every night all of these things are going to click, but it's kind of how I mapped it out when I was speaking to Ty on Poke the Bear earlier this week of like, you look at where they were last year, and my God, they were dreadful. And they were terrible the entire year. But even like before the trade deadline teardown, where like they couldn't win 3 games in a row, kept on feeling like one step forward, one step back. When they traded all their guys on March 8th, they were 2 points out of a wild card spot. Like it takes, and that team was ass. That team was miserable the entire year. That team was not fun at all to watch, and they were still hanging in the mix. And I think when you look at what the reasonable expectations are for this team, like where I'm optimistic about them, at least being, I'm not saying like it's a lock, they're going to be a playoff team. How I can see them just being competitive, where we're in March and they're hovering around 2-4 points out of a spot or something like that. It all comes down to how I view it, of like setting reasonable expectations of what established players can get back to playing to their standard, not overachieving. I'm not being like, we got a 40-goal year from Morgan Geeky incoming. Middlestat, 65 point. Like, no, we're not saying that. I'm not saying the power play is going to be top 10, but like you go through the list, like, all right, is it reasonable to expect David Pastrnak to score 40 goals and be, around 100 points again? I think it's pretty fair for what his track record has been. Is it reasonable to expect that Jeremy Swayman, who had an 892 save percentage after a 912 career save percentage, can get back to being 910, 912, something like that? Not Vezina, but back to a slightly better than average league average goalie. I think that's pretty fair. Can the defense, if Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm are healthy, get back to being a middle of the road defensive team, at least in terms of the metrics? I think that's also fair. And can the power play go from 29th overall to 20th, 19th, after they've devoted a whole lot of time and effort to it during camp of working with, obviously, Steve Spott, running that group? And I think you saw an improved group off of just one game. Can that personnel be better than they were last year? I think that's all fair. And if all that is working in your favor, setting those reasonable expectations, doesn't that feel like a team that's going to be the last team in or the first team out? And I just don't think that's like an unrealistic expectation with the flaws, with the warts in this roster's makeup. I still think if you play to your strengths and the guys are as expected of what we've seen for years prior to how they are on the ice, like I think that's enough. And that's enough of a formula and a script you can stick to on most nights that you're going to be in the mix. And when you get into the mix, who the hell knows happens once you get into the tail end of a regular season.
I was going to say you're for sure in the mix. And I don't think any of those things are unreasonable. I think the other part of that too, and this goes to our Marty Necas predictions, whether it's Necas or not, nights like tonight prove they still need high-end talent. Well, and they deserve, they need it. And I do wonder, with Pastrnak cooking in his prime the way he is, and Swayman playing the way he did, and McAvoy, you can't just push all your chips into the future. You have to help the here and now. And if someone does become available, whether it's Necas or Rasmus Andersson or some other disgruntled forward out there, you have to go for it. You have the pieces now. Not saying that not to say you're contending for this season, but for the future, to have that guy locked up as part of your core. I agree with you on all the parts about McAvoy and Swayman and Pastrnak and the power play. Like, I completely get it, and I agree. There was some bad tonight in terms of they chase play the entire game. They are slow. They're going to take penalties because of it. They rarely controlled the puck. Now, that's not going to be every night. Like, they're going to play teams that are worse than them. They play Chicago Thursday night. Like, I'm sure that they're going to have much more time on attack. Their possession numbers are going to be better. That's not a recipe for success, though. And that's where I'm like, you got fortunate tonight. Those three things we talked about, Pastrnak, the defense, and Swayman were phenomenal. And that's great. You're not always going to get that. And they're not that talented. And there are nights where the D zone breakdowns just are going to happen. Or Pastrnak, the first line isn't going to produce the way they do. And the depth scoring issues show up. And that's where I'm like, that's where I temper my own expectations, where it's like, this is fun and enjoy these nights. Listeners, like, enjoy it. I don't look at this and say that's a playoff team. Like, you know what this game reminded me of? This is a blast from the past.
What's this?
2017 game 1 against the Ottawa Senators, when Sean Corrali scored like the triple overtime goal or whatever it was.
We got Tommy Cross out there.
It was game 2. It was game 2. Game 1 was Marchand scored the OT winner. But the one where Corrali scored the OT winner, and it might have been game 5. Someone can correct me on this. It was one of the games in that series. Just outmatched, but you found a way to win. And I just think that if you're consistently outmatched, which I do think this roster is going to be consistently outmatched, you can't always win those games, and you're not going to win a majority of those games. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't see it. I don't see it with the postseason yet. Now it has to be 10 games in. If they're 8-2 and they've won every game, all 8 wins are like this, then I'll gladly eat my words. But I don't see it, because they chased play the entire night tonight.
Yes,
it wasn't all perfect for most of that game, but they played the way they wanted to. It was, what were the shots? 4 after the first period, and even in the second, when they were outplayed, it was because of the penalties. And then the 2 minutes after the penalty, where you still have a lot of those guys on the ice. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. You make a compelling case though.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's setting the reasonable expectations too, of by saying that, and like what I looked at as far as guys playing to their standard, you're also inviting a lot of risk of guys you don't know what to expect, right? Like, I like Fraser Minton. I'm not expecting a 20-20 season from the guy. No. I'm not expecting, I don't know what to make of that second line yet. So it is going to be like, if they are more competitive than people expect, it's going to be a very top heavy group. It's going to be Pastrnak leading the way on offense at 5-on-5 in the power play. And all those sorts of things of just relying on him to kind of bail you out. You're going to rely, if you're going to have a lot of lopsided games, shot volume wise, it's going to rely on Jeremy Swayman bailing you out there as well. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, we went into this year expecting the roster is what it is, right? You've got clear deficiencies all across the group that you either have to gradually address through, the draft, or cashing in some of those draft picks for a player, or free agency, or what have you. But I do think that if you are able to like bridge this year and just relying on your big guns and being more competitive than people expected, as opposed to being a team that's kind of either in the mushy middle, or, I'm sure there's other people who think that like, if they just completely suck, it's a good thing too, because that means they're going to get another top 5 pick. But I just think the way this team is built, I think a lot has to go wrong, or guys have to get injured for them to bottom out to that degree. I think you're just too good with your top players night in and night out that you're going to just steadily accrue points off of just if David Pastrnak is a 40-goal guy and Jeremy Swayman, the league average goalie, and the defense stays healthy, you're going to be at least competitive on most nights.
This is where, like, I see the Chicklets guys like Witt and Grinnell have been saying, like, the Bruins are going to suck, like McKenna, miserable for McKenna. I disagree. You're right. Like, there's too much talent on this roster to like truly bottom out, unless, God forbid, there are injuries. And then it's like, all right.
Then that changes the whole thing. If it's injuries, so like how they were last year, right? When like you didn't have Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm and the defense went to shit. Like, oh
yes,
injuries of course will play a big part in it, but
yes,
like,
but I don't like, as currently constructed, to me, they're a team that's right on the outside of the wild card. As I said, they're picking 12th. Like they're contending down the stretch. They're in the mix. As you said, last year's team was 2 points out of the wild card at the deadline, which is crazy to me. There was a roster hole on Tuesday that we were texting about that I was getting all angry about. This enforces a point we always make. But first, remember, everybody, go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. So much great content. Podcast, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Hags, Bruins Beat all the time. Analysis, live streams like this. We'll do these more. We will do these more.
We got a crew in here too.
Yeah, we have a lot of people,
good,
which is great.
It's also very funny when they do. It's not funny when they lose, but also the comment section does crack me up when it's like the playoffs or something like that, and the vibes go through the roller coaster of emotions. But everyone's riding high today. It's good.
Yeah, I did. I like the comments when we first jumped on. It was like, whoa, like let's go, like Cup is back on.
And the Yankees lost today. So.
That's right. Yeah, the Yankees lose, which is fantastic. That is always a good day in my book. But make sure
I'll be running into Cam Schlittler over in Southie. He'll be at Duncan. I'll see him tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
What are the odds on him getting kicked out of a Southie bar? Like they're good. He's going to get kicked out of a Southie bar this year. No question. No question. And then if you don't like watching us, you just like to listen, make sure to subscribe. We get your podcasts from Apple, Spotify, Podbean, all that great stuff. And there's so much other good stuff at CLNS. Patriots Press Pass is cooking. Celtics All Access, Garden Report. I'm sure they're always going live for stuff, so make sure to go check them out. Okay, so there's a shift. Mason Lowry gets pulverized by Tom Wilson twice in one shift. Kastelik goes over, offers to fight. Wilson skates away. He's not going to fight him. And it reinforces this. The whole narrative that, Tanner Jeannot is on the ice, or Mikey Asimont, or these big enforcers are on the ice, these tough guys, it's going to get the other teams. They're going to play scared. They're never going to do anything. They're protectors. It's BS. It's such BS. When a hockey executive tells you that, they are from the Stone Age. I get so agitated by that because that still happened. Mikey Asimont got run over by Tom Wilson. By the way, was
he got hit like a Home Alone villain. Like he completely spun
Marv,
over. Dude.
But it's like, yeah, you're big and tough, but you're chasing play the whole game. Like most of these guys are slow, which is fine, but like they're not like you're not preventing anything. And Tom Wilson, to his credit, is not going to drop the gloves. Like, I don't blame him. The Panthers have proven this, by the way. The Panthers will be the instigator. They will agitate, and then they won't drop their gloves, which they don't have to do. Like, the whole, but the code. Well, who cares if it puts you on the power play? Why would you? I have to abide by the code. Sorry, coach.
Ask the Florida Panthers how they feel about abiding by the code. I think they're happy with their 2 cups. As they're shitting on the rest of the league.
Yeah, okay, Tanner Jeannot and Asimont are protecting Fraser Mitten. What do you mean protect? They're on his left and right. They can't stop someone from hitting him. He's still going to get crunched. So that's one area where I was like, that went to hell on night one.
As soon as I saw Kastelik go up to him and Wilson just laughed him off, I was like, that looks like every single time the Bruins have tried to chase play. Remember, literally a year ago for the Bruins season opener down in Florida, where that team came into it like, we got a bone to pick with you assholes. And literally the Panthers are like, we're going to laugh at you and we're going to run you out of this building. We're going to make you take dumb penalties. We're going to kick your ass on the power play and we're going to knock you out of here. And that's what they do. Like that, the Panthers don't have to abide by a code if they're kicking the shit out of you on the ice. Like Brad Marchand got sucker punched by Sam Bennett in that playoff run. The next game, Charlie Coyle tried to fight Sasha Barkov off the opening draw. Like he told people that's what he was trying to do. You know what Sasha Barkov said? Yeah, I'm not doing that. And then they kicked your ass in that game. Like,
I told you. Yeah, you need talent.
Yes,
people used to get
not
on
the winning formula.
No, people used to get on the Bruce Cassidy Bruins. They'd say, Bruce Cassidy's idea of, we're beating him on the scoreboard. Oh, it's so archaic. It's stupid. They're not tough. They're not the big bad Bruins. Those teams won a lot of games. Sure, maybe when there was a 5-on-5 line brawl, the majority of the Bruins had their backs on the ice, but they won a lot of games. And I just, that blows me away of first night, bottom 6, they played well. I'm not saying they didn't. Like that bottom 6 came to play. They did their job. But the whole idea of, they're protectors. Don't ever believe that. It doesn't work. Like, that's not how the game is played anymore.
Yeah,
it's you sign all these guys. I even heard the Behind the B came out on Wednesday today, and they were talking about that in that. I'm pretty sure, they're gonna be hard to play against, all this stuff. And Neely mentions piss and vinegar, and it's like, well, where is that? Like they're chasing the play the whole game.
Yeah, so. I think it's something right where it comes back to setting the standard and having that being a part of your identity of just being hard to play against and being physical and emphasizing the forechecking and the effort and all those things. I think that's what you have to hop on. It being the great equalizer though is how you run into these issues of expecting that to really change your fortunes when you look at all these teams that are out there where you look at the Blues in 2019, you look at the Panthers all these years, and it's you can be physical and you can land your hits, but you don't have to atone for anything as long as you're kicking the shit out of the team on the ice. No one's going to look at those Blues teams as a neutral observer and being like, oh, those Blues, like that cup didn't count because all those cheap shots they had. No, they remember like, oh, they won, so they must have been really fucking good that year. 10 years from now, people aren't going to care about what the Panthers did. They're going to be like, oh, that was a damn good team. They were kind of grimy, but who gives a shit because they won a cup. And you can do whatever you want. If you can be Sam Bennett and not do anything in terms of, turtling or not answer the call when a guy drops the gloves against you. And maybe in that split second or whoever respective fan base it is, you can hate the guy. When Sam Bennett's on the float in front of like the 50 people that go to the Panthers parades, but he's got a cigar in his mouth and he's flexing and he's drinking a bunch of Molsons, I don't think he gives a shit about not answering the code. Just win on the ice.
And Boston Gamer asks, curious, what was the last soft team to win the cup? I don't know. But my point is not that like you need to be soft. My point is that you need to have skill. You need to have speed. Then you can add in those. You can be fast enough to have the puck a lot and to get on other teams quickly and get in on.
I'd also say
beat the crap.
I'd also say the Avs. The Avs.
Yeah, the Avalanche were probably the last soft team to win a cup. I agree. But yeah, I mean, my point is that you need to have both. And they have a lot of heaviness. I think they're the heaviest team in the league this year. I think I saw, but again, the speed's not there.
Crap.
And I know Sturm says he wants to play faster, and maybe they can. Like you saw in that power play, they look pretty damn fast on that Lindholm goal. And like, Pasternak's not absurdly fast. Elias Lindholm's not absurdly fast, but that play was fast.
We don't know about Kevin Pastrnak though.
That's right, Kevin Pastrnak. Shout out Fanatics. For anyone who missed it, people must have seen it on Twitter. Fanatics posted a graphic that had Kevin Pastrnak in it, which I like that the Bruins tweeted like, "Let's go, Kevin!" Like, that's or way to go, Kevin. Like that should be the new thing. He's, let's go, Kevin. For
if there's anything you can bank on in the year of our Lord 2025, it's Fanatics being complete idiots.
Oh,
and also making a bunch of money and not having any repercussions over it.
Worst.
I hate that group.
The worst. Thank you, Gold Tiger. Most of the Caps shots were bad angles. Go D. Yeah, I agree. They were perimeter on a lot of stuff like that. And that we talked about this earlier in the show was how good they were at keeping guys to the outside. I always say, like, if the other team wants to, dick around on the perimeter, have fun. Granted, the Bruins' first goal was from the outside. That was just ripping it on net, but the Capitals, they didn't do that. Then Swayman was too good. So, I don't know. But, yeah, Fanatics sucks.
What's our big takeaway from today? Fanatics sucks.
Thanks. By the way, to add in a little jersey thought before we go, Washington Capitals need new jerseys. They've had those forever. Sure, they're fine, but they're just old looking, and it's like 2000s. They've had that. I think they got that at the same time the Bruins had theirs in like 07. Time for new jerseys. Like they have cool colors and everything, but
they're waiting for OV to wrap things up. And
that is probably what they're doing. That genuinely is probably what they're doing. Yeah. So some point, right?
Or maybe they ordered a thing from Fanatics like 3 years ago, and they're like, "We're grinding away, brother," and they just haven't got it yet.
They're waiting for you. Come to the white party.
Yeah, exactly.
It's here if you want to come to it.
Yeah.
That white party is like, I could do a whole 3 episodes on how horrible that is. I mean, my God. That's the Bear.
This is our episode just ripping on Fanatics. I think it's justified, but
it is. I think it's so well deserved. Just goobers. That's Live Poke the Bear. Let us know if you want us to do some more of these throughout the season after big games, certain times. We can just do a live podcast to do a live podcast. Let us know. I love doing these. Connor, I'll speak for Connor. Connor also loves doing these so much. So he's in the same boat.
Absolutely.
What can people look forward to from you coming up?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over at boston.com, Boston Globe. We have covered every step of the way this Bruins season for however long it goes. Game 1 of 82. We'll see how much it carries on beyond that. But you can read my stuff over there. Well, you covered every step of the way again. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. And we're always presented by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Make sure to go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, go subscribe because that'd be really nice on Bruins Ringside on YouTube. And that's Poke the Bear. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Poke the Bear listeners, you viewers, have a great rest of your night.